with Ziggy, and Ziggy's going to talk through the process there of how to track and strategically identify any upcoming events for Cubo. So Ziggy, if you want to take it away there, please.
Yeah, so with regards to an overall campaign, which an exhibition forms part of, the main question is, what is the point? You know, why are we doing this? So I always try to have a clear goal at the beginning, to see what we're trying to achieve through the campaign, and then how do we know we've actually achieved it? What's the measurement at the end of it? In order to do that, then for example, last year the CV show was brand awareness. That was the goal. This year, the goal will be to increase sales. That will need to have a percentage mark, or one per person, or some kind of smart objective aligned to it, so that we know that there's a figure attached to it. So it needs to be specific. So in developing these goals, we always try and make them smart. In other words, they're specific, so they're narrow. We can measure them. We define how we're going to measure them. So it could be how many meetings someone has as a result of the CV show conversations. Need to be attainable. So not, you know, eye in the sky, kind of like moonshots, but, you know, something that we know that we realistically can get, but optimistic at the same time. Try and keep them relevant, so they're aligning to the overall company objective, which is 25% growth, revenue growth year on year. So we're always trying to support that. That's the underlying goal. And then time-based, so we try and put a time to it. So within, as an example for the CV show this year, the goal could be, we want at least two meetings per BDM, per business development manager, with a update on closed or won within 3 months. You know, something that as specific as that, so that we can report back then to the board on that. And then we need to think, when we're starting thinking about we know what it's for, now we're thinking about who is it for then. So we'd sometimes develop a persona for the campaign that we've got in mind. We could be thinking, is it your average general haulier, or is it, you know, a guy who has a massive fuel company? Our customers can vary so much, but to try and kind of define the messaging, we need to think about even one specific sector, try and focus it a bit more, instead of just throwing paint at the wall at everybody and seeing what sticks. And that who helps us define then what the key campaign messages are going to be. And within that, we try and think, what's the big idea? How do we actually resonate with this person? Let me just move this over. I'm not sure if it's blocked off in your screen. So yeah, that will then turn into what the content strategy is, which I can show you an example of that I'm working on the CV show at the minute, and what the position and how we're positioning ourselves for the show. So generally, we don't position ourselves on price. Generally, what we would be doing, it would be sustainability. So the product position would be more from a sustainability angle. It can be from reliability, which is big in our industry because people are fed up of using systems that don't work, and just general usability. So we're trying to communicate that you can rely on this system, and it is technology. If something goes wrong, we are going to fix it for you. We're not going to hide under a rock, and that is quite often the experience that some of our new customers would have with their ex-supplier. So that would be the how we're going to develop the messaging within the campaign. So if you go onto our stand at the CV show, everything that you see printed on those boards and around that stand has all that thinking behind it. And then we'll decide what our media plan is going to look like that's going to support that stand. Basically, what channels are we going to use? What order are we going to use them in? And if we need any more budget for that, are we just going to do it? Are we going to do any paid, or are we just going to do it all just on our own channels? So then we need to produce the assets for the campaign. So we'll make sure before we get to the CV show that we have all of this already sitting there ready to go and ready to press go on while we're on stand. And then the campaign execution. Do we need to test anything before it goes live? And do we need to adjust anything during the campaign? So that's the kind of rough how-to on a campaign. There's other things that kind of go into that. Let me see if this is the right document. I can open this. No, it's not. There's one. If you let me just go, I'll go out into the CV show one for this year,
Yeah.
and I can show you the live documents for the CV show. So this is an example of the media campaign that I've started to work on then for that. So if I just expand this, so you can see then these are the timelines of what we need to do. So what phase are we in? Content and design, technical setup and launch. What the task is as far as the social media plan goes, and then who's responsible for it and what the status is, and any notes that we need. And then the overall content plan, we go into a wee bit more detail. So these are the dates that I would actually be publishing that. And if I just move this over a wee second, bear with me. Can you guys see that okay?
All good.
Yeah, so that would be the date of publishing, what channel would be used, what the theme of the messaging is, who we need to mention, what the actual written content is, and then the visual. So I've only done one visual for the CV show, which is this one, a kind of blurred image of the stand, and then telling people where to find us. And then I'll add on just a little thumbnail of all those images as we go. And again, they will be in that folder under exhibitions, under CV show 2023.
And sorry to interrupt, Ziggy, I take it then just for any future kind of plans, whether it's the CV show or anything, that's the same sort of format you want to follow, just using that sort of spreadsheet?
It would be, because I just think it's quite visual, and it's very, well, for me anyway, it's just very logical.
Yeah.
So that would be then how we would kind of pan that out a bit more and into the actual detail of it. If I stay within the CV show, there's a few things around that. If we look in here, you can tell me if I'm jumping back to something that maybe isn't relevant, but this is the rota, and this was 2022 one, this is a 2023 one. So it's who's going to be on stand, on what days, what partners are we going to have, you know, who's going to be staying in the hotel, who's going to be coming over for the day, and any other notes. It's really just like the basis of a rota. So we all know where we're at with that. But if I go into last year's, I can show you the stand etiquette. Oh, here, there was the, sorry, wrong one. So this is the document then that I would send out, maybe go through in a sales meeting actually, but send out to everybody who's going to be at the show, and say, you know, what the goals are, so they're aware of what we're doing. It's not just, you know, everything has to align, and people need to have a better, I suppose, higher understanding of the point of it all. Sorry, I'm just going to move these down so as I can see you guys. So we've got the rota, which I touched on from the Excel spreadsheet. So we know how many people are going to be in stand. We know what everyone knows what the goals and the KPIs are. Although last year it really was on brand awareness, we still were looking at how many sales came out, how many leads did we get, and who did we speak to. So it's like a pack for the people when they're on stand, what their roles are, showing them which corner they're generally going to be on at the stand, and who they're going to be working with, and then guidance, you know, so everyone knows what's happening. What we want you to be doing pre-doors opening, what the dress code is, greetings, body language, etiquette, visitors. It's really a guide. I mean, everyone on stand is experienced, and, you know, we're not trying to, you know, just tell people things they already know. That's not the aim. It's just to make sure that everybody's coming from the same place. And even partners, this goes out to partners as well. It's not just our team. And then these inquiry forms, and I can show you an example of those. What's going to happen once you fill those in? Who do they go to? You know, they can't just be left in a corner somewhere. Some ideas of what you can do to just qualify the people that you're meeting and you're speaking to. and then any merchandise and what the follow-up is as well. So it's almost a how-to on what we really expect and would like on stand. And then if I give you, let me see.
I'm just checking, Ziggy, would it ever be a thing whenever you're obviously identifying the events? Would you have a meeting with Connor around who you're going to bring to the event itself?
I would. Sorry, yes, I would. So that would be one of our early meetings because we would have booked the accommodation in January. So the flights and accommodation would have been booked, and that would have been okay. CV shows T-4 months. So let's get the accommodation booked and let's get the flights booked. So that would be a meeting with Connor for him to tell me who is going to be in attendance. So yeah, that would need to be put down there. I'm just trying to find the little
Sorry, Ziggy, can I also ask, it's just whenever we're probably going, I want to go back a few steps. So whenever you create the campaign, it's then how do, and I know we're talking about the CV show a lot at the minute, but how do we identify which events that we're going to attend throughout that year coming up? So it's that process. If you want to take it back, once the campaign's created, then how do we pick and choose?
Well, in this case, I'm using an event as an example of a campaign.
Right. Okay.
So a campaign could be anything, you know, from doing a Google paid ads to trying to get our LinkedIn followers up. That it could be that specific, but in this case, I'm using the exhibition as an example of a campaign.
Right. Okay.
But then there's lots of offshoots from that, obviously. So it's so multi-layered. Obviously, it's you know, it's footfall, it's real life. But also there's a digital aspect of that needs to run side by side. So I thought that was a good example because it's both sides, it's offline and online.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Is that, sorry, Ziggy, something that's always depicted by Connor, or would ever be like feedback from the likes of Robert Steele? I know you mentioned he did the Republic of Ireland one.
There would be feedback. So if I can show you documents for this as well. I just don't want to be bouncing about to confuse things. But for example, on Bobby Steele's one that he done in the South and on the CV show, everybody had an inquiry form that they had to fill in. Those leads come back to me. I upload them into an Excel spreadsheet, and that is the lead gen sheet for that show. Excuse me. So then what I do is I ask them to rate each lead, each person that they've spoken with from like A to F, and give them like a guide on how to rate that lead. And then at the end of 3 months, I would be like, right, that's it, cut off. What has been the return on investment for this? So I would sit down with Connor and say, this is what we got out of this show. It cost us $5,000, but we got a sale for 12. So it was worthwhile. The CV show last year, that reporting was so bad because it's everyone's first time of having some kind of system, you know, and from my point of view, people kind of think that you're, not that they think, but they maybe feel sometimes, and to no fault of theirs either, that like, this is a pain in the ass, can you just let me get on with my job? But realizing that at the end of the day, if it's not measured, we can't come back here next year. So I did have an instance where Bobby said, I want to do this show again next year, one of the Irish shows. And I said, well, listen, I need to obviously look at budget. I can't just say yes and no. And I need to look at what comes out of the show. And he said, well, sure, we're doing the CV show again, and not much came out of that. And I thought, you're right. Not much did come out of that. But that was a call higher than me. You know, that was Connor going, yeah, we're going to do it again. So the deciding factor on that will be the same process when I sit down with Connor, and this is their second rodeo now of having to fill in that information correctly. And there's going to be a cutoff at 3 months. It's going to be really regimented. If you don't have this information, then it's getting graded as an F or whatever. And then we'll look and see how many A leads we got, how many B we got, and how many C. And that will be linked in to the overall goal as well. So we hope everybody to get 2 A's and 2 B's or whatever it is. And I need to sit down with Connor and have him really give me a better understanding of what he is looking for from the show, you know, actual numbers and figures. And I know sometimes he doesn't like to do that, like give, you know, attach figures to it, but from a reporting point of view, unless you're going to, there's absolutely no point.
Yeah, and just on the number aspect of things, is that like obviously a set budget? Is there a certain time of year that renews, or do you have to then allocate?
Well, it's just our financial year, so I get it October to October, and it actually went down. My budget went down this year. It's like 85 or something. Last year it was over 100 and something, but there was a rebrand exercise to be done last year, which is why there was less. It isn't a lot. For a company of this size that is scaling, which is why, again, when for the likes of Bobby come and say, I would like to do that show next year. Sure, even if we only get one sale, it's worth it. It's like, I know, but there's so many other things that budget needs to go towards. So we need to look at it more holistically and not just, oh, sure, let me do that wee show because we'll definitely get at least one sale. We can't keep looking at it like that. We need to have a more strategic view.
And just off that, to get a ticket then, is it something you'd have to go back and forth with Connor, make sure it's worth the return on investment then as to whether you do the show or not?
Yeah, I would give him my opinion. We'd have a discussion on it and then we decide if it's something that, I can pencil into the budget for next year.
Happy days. I'm just thinking there, just looking through the points, Ziggy, as you're going through, would there be any other points then about the actual identifying of the upcoming events? I think maybe going into the second point there about how to prepare for the event, which would be kind of allocating of people and, the 6 months and the 4 months, or is there anything else you'd like to touch on that?
Identifying the event, I suppose, really, we're only ever going to do one event per year, one big event. So there's not going to be much around that. It will be either the CV show or it will be a new one that has just happened for the first time last year, I think it was called. It ran, sorry. And it's the ITT hub, maybe that one. But I know, what do you call them, Aquarius were at that last year. So I wanted Liz to tell me what she thought of, what her ROI was on that, basically. I think this year's CV show will be, obviously it's her second time around, if there is no real actual return on investment and it's just oh, we're still here and we're kind of positioning ourselves among with the big boys. And I understand Connor's reason for doing that. I just think it would be hard to justify throwing that much money at that every year if we're getting no sales out of it. And that's my opinion, but I can only give my opinion,
100%. And just you touched on it there as well. Obviously, we are big in the likes of partnerships and who we do in Aquarius.
Yeah.
Would you ever base an upcoming event on maybe what Aquarius, one of the bigger partners, are going to do, or would you fall back and kind of see what they're doing at the event, as you said?
Yeah, I mean, I would talk to Liz and other partners are starting to now get in contact. So like Squirrel's marketing department, since Connor and Craig have been over visiting them, have touched base with us. But, because they're supplying so many different telematics companies, we would bring them onto our stand because it definitely gives us social proof. But I don't think that we would kind of follow what they're doing as such, because their goals could be totally different to what our goals are. So we always just have to be thinking, why? Back to that first question, what is the point of this? It might work for them, but they might have a different point, I suppose is what I'm saying.
Absolutely, yeah. But then just double checking, Ziggy, would that be everything in terms of the sort of identifying? If you like, if there's nothing further to add to that, we can stop this recording, I can trim it, and then we can move on to the second one, which will probably be the bulkier one about the preparing for the event. If it suits yourself.
I suppose with identifying as well, I do encourage the BDMs when they're out, feet on the street, meeting people in those industries that we're targeting, to always find out, to let us know if there's anything coming up that their customers are going to be at. And it means that then we'll add it onto our sheet. That's exactly how Bobby ended up doing the 2 Ari shows. He came back and go, look, there's a show here, such and such is going to be at it. It might be worth looking at. So that's how we ended up doing that. And I would always encourage that. It's not to say it's always going to be a yes, but if it forms part of the overall strategy and it's meeting the goals of what Connor, Craig and Declan want or are laying out for that year, then it will definitely be considered. So we do encourage everybody to let us know if there's anything else out there that we might have missed.
You said the BDMs have a form to fill in. Do you have like a template of that at all, Ziggy? Is it saved anywhere, or
I
again,
do,
just that
yeah.
word of mouth?
Yeah. Are you talking about what form for what specifically? Sorry.
Just something similar to that. If they maybe hear that a customer's going to something, is there anything that they have to give in to maybe qualify to make it an event that you
No.
would consider doing?
There isn't. They literally just drop an email or phone us and say, oh, such and such is going here, have a look at it. And then Niall and I will add it to our Excel sheet, and then we'll take it from there, basically. You know, look at budget, see if budget's there for it. Look at why are we doing this? Does it align? I suppose.
Do you mind, Ziggy, if we have a look at that, just that spreadsheet, just to run through that and see what that
first one? Let me see. Well, that was the industry. So hold on a wee second. Where is that now? Let me see. Let me just expand this one wee sec.
So you can actually keep it expanded. That'll, because we'll see the full screen that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So if I am in exhibitions, can't see the wood of the trees. Here we go. And let me just check which folder this is in. See while I'm in here, actually, do you want to? You might want to see this section more so in the next question, which is what they come back to us with. You know, their sheet and their oh, it's not loading anyway. I'll come back. Oh, here it is. This is an example of the sheet and the lead gen quality rating, so I'll keep that opened for the next one. But the sheet you're talking about, sorry, is for
just those that kind of master spreadsheet. You collate all the events that are upcoming.
Okay.
You definitely had it up before we hit the record button.
I had it
was there somewhere.
I had it opened a wee second ago. Well, here, let me just open it here in Excel. Go on here. Where is it? Been here. No. I'm in between laptops as well at the minute, which is not helping my situation, but it's definitely here. I can't find it, and I can't find it when I open up an Excel spread. You know, if I open up Excel.
Yeah, and see the most recent.
Yeah.
That's strange how that's not there.
Isn't it? Because then it goes on to yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah. Okay.
I'm sure I'll come across it as this conversation goes on, but I can forward it. You know what it might be actually in here, in this meeting one. So, oh yes, this is where it is. It's this link.
Oh, so this is saved in like SharePoint, or it's in?
Yeah, it's just linked to my notes from my first meeting with Dan. So it's in the bigger marketing plan document, which probably isn't on everybody's main server. So yeah, I just put the date down, what the event is, what the location is, if we booked it or not, and that's it. Any other notes? So it's quite a raw document.
Yeah.
That will be tidier and added to as time goes on. But because I know we've no budget for any more events this year, then there's nothing else that is going to be looked at.
Okay.
So it was open there, look.
Happy days. And if you like then, Ziggy, I can stop the recording now and we can move on to the next process. If that's everything on that one.
That's fine.
So I'll just stop the recording now.